I'm here to tell you how Molly Ringwald almost brought down my airplane. It was back in the 90s, and I had had this dream. It was very vivid, it was very real, and my ex-husband, who used to fly a lot for business, was in a plane crash. And there were only 4 survivors of this plane crash. And it was like a movie panning across the water, and there was Molly Ringwald sitting on top of this big piece of luggage with her legs crossed, looking very cute, not like she'd been in a plane crash. But we now knew that Molly Ringwald was one of the survivors. So now there was only 3 chances that my husband survived this plane crash. So it became this kind of family thing. Every time he flew someplace, I said, "What do you do if Molly Ringwald is on your flight?"
I get off the plane.
Right. So I decided to march on Washington, D.C., my one and only march on Washington, D.C., and got this middle seat, last minute flight, and, get talking to my neighbors next to me on the plane. And I said, I'm going to march on Washington, D.C.
I said, we're going to march on Washington, D.C. too. And we're with the Hollywood Women's Political Caucus. There's a bunch of us on this plane. So there's a bunch of actresses on this plane too. There's Veronica Hamill, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, and there's Molly Ringwald. I'm like,
Molly Ringwald's on this flight?
She goes, yeah, why?
She said, I had this dream, and she was like one of the survivors of a plane crash, and I keep telling my husband to get off the airplane if he ever sees Molly Ringwald on a flight. I don't know what to do. So I'm kind of, I don't know what to do. So now it's starting to buzz around the flight. Oh my God, Molly Ringwald on this flight. And then somebody had a dream that she was in a plane crash. And so one of the women was saying,
it would bring so much attention to our cause if the plane went down. I'm like,
no, it wouldn't. That would be bad. So I'm debating. I'm finally rationalizing. Well, it was my husband who was in this plane crash, not me. I'm sure I'm fine. So then we get an announcement that they're having technical difficulties with the plane. So I am on a broken plane with Molly Ringwald, one of the few survivors of a plane crash. So now I'm really kind of rationalizing. Okay, we're really flying over land, not water. This was back in the days when you could actually take your passenger to the gate, leave them there, wave by from inside the terminal, those days long ago. And unbeknownst to me, my husband stayed around, and he's in aviation, and he saw that they were doing some major repairs on the airplane. So he said,
this flight might not be going.
So he stuck around. And then this was the days also before cell phones were common, and Molly Ringwald got off the flight to make a phone call. My husband saw her. When she tried to get back on the plane,
he said, are you on this flight?
She said, yes, I am. And he went, she scurried on the flight. So my husband now knows that I'm on a plane with Molly Ringwald. And after having gone through this thing every time he flies of telling him to get off the plane if Molly Ringwald's on the flight. So he knows. Well, eventually they finished the work on the plane. It took a couple of hours, and the plane took off, and we landed in Washington, D.C., and my friend picked me up at the airport. I got to her apartment. There's a message on the answering machine, and it's my husband. He said,
what do you do when Molly Ringwald is on your flight? You get off the plane.
So she didn't bring down the plane, but that's my story. It was a near thing.